That's interesting. So you started off doing more, it seems like corporate communications,
Hmm.
and that foundation helped you um, transition to this work. So can you tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about the project that you're working on, 12 Realms? What is it? What is, sort of set the whole scene? How did this start? Where did this come from?
Okay, so and I'm gonna try to make this quick so I don't bore you all to death because everybody likes to hear themselves talk. So it really did start when I was young. Being an African American kid, growing up in university towns, that was a blessing. I did usually live in neighborhoods that were predominantly white, right?
Hmm.
So I was always like the only black kid, in a predominantly white neighborhood, but I did have the advantage of being around every ethnic group imaginable, right?
Hmm.
And so for me, if you're called names, I lived in Georgia. Okay, so I don't need to even, this is in the 70s. So, I came across a lot of racism, and it was when I asked my mother, oh, can I spread the white part of my hand to the rest of my body? They were like, yeah. And I was
Wow.
serious. I was like, how can I do that? I mean, I'm going to tell you something really embarrassing. I actually put tape on my lips, right, to make my lips thinner because they were talking about my lips, So, you learn that kind of self hatred and the whole white supremacy thing very early on. I was like 4, 5, 6, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so my dad was like, nah. Okay. So he set me to the side. I was really fortunate to have a anthropologist as a dad who also studies sociology. And he taught me about African history. And, this is something I never knew. And so I was armored with that knowledge. And I think it's too bad that we kind of depend on history because it should be really what you do.
Hmm.
But that's how we are as a species. We do depend on that. And so, and he really appreciated all cultures. And so, him kind of giving me that value set was a huge inspiration years later. So, years later, here I now have my son. He does not have these issues that I had, when I was in
Hmm.
Georgia, but he wanted to write a graphic novel. And, a lot of these young guys, they love Jon Snow, they love Game of Thrones,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And he wanted something that was like Game of Thrones like, but he wanted a black Jon Snow, right? And
Oh, okay.
so my husband, who's very pro-black, he was like, well, "Why don't we just have it in Africa?" And Gavin was like, "No, I want it to be, where all the settings are, medieval Europe." And we went back and forth with that, and I just was not interested in that.
Hmm.
But my husband then said, "How about having Moors? How about having the central family be Moors in Spain?" And they were mainly there in, the seventh and eighth, ninth centuries, right?
Hmm.
And quite a few of them were from Northern Africa versus West Africa. But one thing that I did learn is one of the oldest boats in the world was actually discovered in West Africa. And so
Wow.
I was like, huh, yeah, this is, a lot of things I learned during the research here. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to make these African folks the people of water, the tribal water. So we came up with 4 dynasties in relation to the 4 elements, being air, water,
Hmm.
earth, and fire. And it was really important to me that all kids, we all kind of suffer from it, especially if you're of color.
Hmm.
I wanted all kids to read the book, and say, hey, I can relate to this.
Hmm.
I don't care what you are. I don't care if you're from New Zealand. I don't care. I
Hmm.
wanted the kid to eventually find some chapters that talked about their history.
Hmm.
That was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm doing it. And it turns out that this was something that folks really wanted. When I was telling people, it didn't matter what they were. Even folks who were conservative,
Hmm.
they were like, oh, that's a really good idea. So I think it's something that's needed. Folks to kind of learn their history in a fun way.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm biased because I'm black, right?
Hmm.
So the central characters are, of African descent, but I really did want to incorporate these different groups. And the two main characters of the storyline is a girl who is of West African and French descent, and the young man who's a Hun is of Asian descent. And it wasn't something that I really planned out. It just seemed natural to do that, especially in that setting. But then I got really excited because I was like, these are two groups, ironically, that aren't usually the main characters or the heroes of a lot of. There's improvements. I mean, it really has been improving over the past few years,
Hmm.
but it's still not the norm.
No.
And so that was important to me as well.